Hello, compassionate souls. How are we today? Um, I'm excited at this presentation because I think as a layperson, it's one of the things that's important for us to have a full level of comfort in, understanding how to have healthy boundaries. Because once we have those healthy boundaries, it's easier to go into a situation and be able to share the information. We're in this place right now. We're donating our time. We're trying to make the world a better place. And the last thing we need is to feel uncomfortable. We need to feel like I'm here for them. I feel comfortable for them. Let's make this work. So healthy boundaries is what we're going to cover today, and making sure that when we're in that space and we're helping people, we know that we're doing everything we need to do to be safe and to be able to share fully. So we've got here slideshow from the beginning. Okay, so I think we're good to go. And I thank you for your patience as I'm still learning my processes, but I got the information down, that's for sure. So healthy boundaries are the place that we want to talk about today. I'm Dr. BarbSXM, and I'm introducing, of course, the Compassionate Listener Series. You know, it's a 10-part series. This is class 108 in this series. And if you decide not to do it, that's perfectly fine. This information is just as strong and healthy. But we want to be able to let you know that this is where we are headed, is helping all people who want to be compassionate souls to be able to listen, to be compassionate listeners. We want to help you learn all these things you need to learn. So what are healthy boundaries? That, you know, that's something that can be seen differently for different people. So let's talk about it. The boundaries that we need to look at are for ourselves. You know, we're looking for ourselves right now because we're teaching you to be a compassionate listener. And so we want to make sure that our boundaries are safe physically. And we'll talk about a little bit about that. Mentally, that we're in a place that we're not feeling challenged, because this is supposed to be a gentle flow of vibrational energy. Emotionally, spiritually, and energetically, we want to make sure we're all in a safe place for that. So we'll talk about a few different topics that includes. So the way I looked at it, I presented, and so many other people do too, is humans, we're in school, okay? Humans in school learning their roles. That's what we are. We're learning how to create. We're learning how to make the world a better place. We're learning how to communicate. There's all these great things. So even though we all came here in our soul contract to help in some way, many of us are taken off course because we're trying to help solve somebody else's issues. So it's important to recognize, yes, we're here to help others, but we need to take care of ourselves first, make sure we're safe and in a best place in order to do that and be strong. So that's not to say that it's not a part of our calling. And I'm sure for many of us is this lay counseling, this lay compassionate listener is a key piece of it. But it's to say that many of us are so busy helping others that we forget we need to help ourselves first. And in this course, we're going to learn how to be the best compassionate listener possible by first taking care of our needs, our education, our guidelines, and our confidence in order to stand up solid, to be really good at what we do and to be strong with ourselves first. And then actually learn these pieces, and then we can actually serve others better. So how far along are you already in your natural abilities? Many of us feel that we've been listening to people talk our whole life, and people come to us with problems. So maybe you already have these, you are a guiding light already, and you have these guiding thoughts, but you know, are you a good listener? Do you feel like you really enjoy listening, or you're good at it? Then do people come to you to share their burdens with you? Do random people tell you their story? Do children love to be around you? Do they like talking to you? When you're at a party, do people surround you telling you their stories? They wait for your reactions. They look at your eyes like and tell you this great stuff going on. Do coworkers seek you out to tell you what's been happening to them and keep you informed about their life? And do you walk up to people that look upset and just talk to them naturally? Do you have any of those natural abilities about you? So if you are, then you're already on the path. You're already in that direction of a natural compassionate listener. So why do you think boundaries are so important? I mean, I think we know the obvious ones of, being safe, but we want to make sure that we understand boundaries aren't just about any potential violence, unsafe environment or anything like that. We need to understand the boundaries go way deeper than that, because we are energetic beings. We are electromagnetic human beings, and we have this beautiful energy that leaves and goes out into the world. And that magnet usually is very seductive to somebody that's looking to suck energy off of you. So we want to really look at this energetic, compassionate listener piece for you. This is for you and your safety, and making sure that you're in the right place and protecting you, because you have your best to give to others. So do you think about, I have the boundaries, though I don't feel mistreated or used. You already feel like you have those boundaries where you understand. Do you hear yourself say, I can't listen to other people without becoming emotionally involved? If that's true, then we need to talk about understanding fact versus feeling and being able to separate those two, because we don't want to take on anybody's emotion. We do want to be empathetic. We want to be, interested in hearing their word and having the empathy for them. And we do want to use that piece, but then we don't want to take on their emotion. We want to use compassion back with them. That's a guideline that we've talked about before in looking at sympathy, empathy, and compassion. It's not my job to fix everyone. And it's not your job to fix everyone. And here's the thing about the compassionate listener. You're not fixing anyone. You're not solving problems for anyone. That is not why we're here. As a compassionate listener, we're sitting attentively, letting someone release the energies they have in them, release the emotions they have in them, letting go of the things that are penned up. We're allowing them to vent in order to get the information out, to get the baggage emptied, in order for them to feel that they've been heard. We help them release that pinned up pressure that's building up inside of that emotional garbage bag. We want to help them release that. We're not fixing anything. Okay. So this is important to understand. You don't have to fix. Also givers need to set limits, because takers rarely will. And so if you say, okay, we've got an hour and at 45 minutes, we're going to wrap up, then you need to stay on that schedule, because you're the one giving of your time. You're the one that needs to be able to set the limits and make sure the limits are kept. Because even as a professional counselor and coach, I can tell you right now, unless you set the guidelines and say it's time for you to leave, your time is up. Most of them are not going to leave. They're not going to want to leave. They're going to keep talking. And a lot of them will wait until the last minute to say something important. And then you feel like you are compelled and you have to stay longer. So at 45 minutes, let's say if you're going to be with them an hour, 45 minutes, we say, okay, we're going to start wrapping up the session now. I appreciate your day today. And then leave that last few minutes. If something pops out, which usually does at the last minute, then they'll do that. But you need to understand it's your schedule and you need to keep it on the schedule, because if not, a lot of these people you're helping will keep talking for a long time. So you decide, maybe you're going to get together and have coffee and talk for 2 hours. That's perfectly fine. But you need to be the one to make the schedule and keep the schedule. Also, boundaries can hurt sometimes, but nothing hurts as much as losing yourself in this. So boundaries are important for you to understand. Maybe they have gone through some kind of abuse, or maybe they've gone through lots of losses, and they want, a lot of people when they're talking, they want you to feel their pain with them. Our job is not to feel their pain, but our job is to say, that sounds like that's really painful for you. And you're able to talk and have them empty more of it out. But this is not a time for you to attach your emotions to what they're saying. We need to stay in our power. We need to stay in our strength. We need to stay in our compassion. And anytime we feel emotion, we need to go back into that compassion where we breathe in the white light. We breathe the strength out into them and around us, or we breathe in the white light and we release anything no longer serves us. Because boundaries sometimes are hard. Sometimes you do want to put your arms around them. Sometimes you do want to pat them on the shoulder, but we need to make sure we're not doing that. Okay. This is a very compassionate listening program. Is not a counseling session, and it's not becoming best buddies with someone going through drama. And again, that may sound harsh to some people, but the truth of it is we're there to help them empty that emotional bag and help them empty the venting, so they can begin then to take the negativity out and replace it with higher vibrations and assist them in helping and come up with that. So I know it's not always easy, but we have to stick with that. And it's okay if the other person gets angry. It's okay if they're venting. It's okay if they're not appreciative of of that. Like, I'm not done talking to you. Now, this won't happen with most of the people you're working with, but if it's someone who's lost a loved one or they're in a crisis, they may feel like they need more time. But it's not your, and I mean it in the most loving, respectful way. It's not your issue if they're having emotional problems. Then book another appointment with them and try to visit them another time. And if they get angry because they're talking about what makes them so mad, it's okay. Just validate. I hear your words. You sound very angry. The words coming out of your mouth sound very angry. Is there another way that maybe you could look at that? Let open-ended questions so they can turn it around for themselves. It's okay to say no, and you don't feel guilty saying no. Do you have any more time with me? I want to talk for longer. It's okay to say no, I don't have that. Or if they're asking you to support them in some way that you're uncomfortable with, you say no. You stand in your strength and your power. So you need to be strong on your boundaries. Healthy boundaries are not walls. We're not saying, that you have to put up this wall and not talk, but boundaries are just saying you can come here, we can talk, but we are not going to go past this line. And so these are boundaries you have to have. I have people that I will work with them, but after the third time of me talking and we're going back and forth, if there's no change, after a third time, we are not a good match anymore. So that's my boundary, because my time is valuable. I will give you time. I will give you some more time, and I'll give you some more time. But after that, if there's no change and it just becomes a pity party of woe is me, everything's bad, blah, 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 then I put up my boundary and say, this is not appropriate. Maybe I'm not the right person for you. And maybe you should see somebody else or talk to somebody else. Or maybe someone that's a better match for them, or maybe it's time for them to see a counselor. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And when you have boundaries allow you to navigate your power, your strength, what you're willing to do, what you're not willing to do. That's why your boundaries are so important. So you need to know what you're comfortable with. And most of this comes with experience. Most of this comes with gut instinct, using your intuition, praying about it, meditating about it, feeling it. Even in the moment, if I start to feel uncomfortable in any way, I take that moment and I breathe in the energy. I breathe it in very clearly right there in the moment. And sometimes you'll even see me do it, because I want to calm myself and I want to make sure everything that I'm doing and saying or sharing or boundarying is within what my calling and my white light says, what my energy says. I don't want to make it up here, because sometimes this thing up here might not be fully where you need to be. So I take a second, just breathe in again before words come out of my mouth to make sure my boundaries feel strong and powerful. And I am saying what I mean, not just random words in the moment. So your boundaries are hugely important. So why the compassionate listener must set the healthy boundaries. So now we talk about the why. Now, this is to protect the compassionate listener by minimizing or protecting our feelings and our personal information. We're not sharing. I mean, if there's someone you've been friends with for a long time and you're like, oh yeah, that's one time when Bob and I did blah, blah, you can do that. But this is not a time that we have to share our personal information with them. We're there listening. We're supposed to be compassionate. We're hearing what they have to say. We do not send mixed messages with innocent or inappropriate words, body language, or touching. So if it's a natural feel and you're patting someone on the shoulder, you hold their hand while they're talking, that's fine. But we make sure it feels right in the moment and it's appropriate and professional. We're not professional, licensed, or certified counselors, nor do we claim to be. But we want to make sure that we're helping them vent and release that emotional baggage, that emotional garbage they have, into a safe way, a safe corridor. We release it and let it go, and then replace it hopefully with some high vibrational information. Because if you don't replace it with a higher vibration, that deep vibrational or that dark vibration will just come back up again, and then it becomes repetitive. So we want to help and guide them to some higher vibrational places. So we also protect the compassionate listener by ensuring the highest level of integrity while openly supporting this hurting soul. There's a lot coming, folks, a lot, whether it be job related, weather related, devastation, just so many different things. So while this is a hurting soul, if we can help them release some of this baggage, then they can help lift their vibration, repair their emotional hurts, and be able to accept life as it changes for them in a little bit different way. And also we are protecting the experiencer in these boundaries because we're validating their emotions, but not an unhealthy retribution. We don't promote acts of violence. We're in love. We're based in love. So if they're talking violence or they're talking actions of negativity, I really want to hurt that person, we can validate, yes, I know you're really in pain and that really sounds harsh, but we want to guide them away from that kind of thing. We never want to go, yeah, you're right, they deserve it. You know, that's not what we're doing. We're trying to guide them into a gentler, softening, a loving and respectful answer to their situation. We want to help them find their solution. It's inner work for them. So, and sometimes we'll never find a solution to what's going on, and that's okay, because that's not why we're there to find a solution. We're there so they can empty this large bag of emotions and hurts that they have. And when we're also protecting the experiencer, we're holding that space so they can vent, they can unload their emotions or their negativity to see, maybe to see the story differently. Because sometimes after we say the story and we look at it and we've got it out of our system, it begins to feel maybe it isn't as bad as I thought. And then remember the reference we've had in some of the other classes that when we look at an emotion coming out, is this emotion in the moment just so powerful, but in 2 weeks, 2 months, 2 years, or 2 decades, will it have this kind of power? And if it's not going to have power over your life in the future, then to maybe put it in a little bit more perspective. Oh, it sounds really powerful right now. You know, I wonder how this will change for you in the next couple of months, or maybe it'll feel differently for you. Do you think it'll feel differently for you in the next 2 months? Like, will you be able to let go of that? Like, let them figure the answers out for themselves. And also to protect the experiencer is to assist them in changing their thought patterns going forward, looking at it maybe from another point of view. Yeah, that was a really tough situation. You know, is that something that you see happening again in the future? Well, you know, what about the brightness? Do you see how maybe there could have been a benefit from this? So we find this beautiful flowing language to say, you know, life is going to get better. In this moment, it's harsh, but it's going to get better. But you know, when it's going to get better is the more they get out of that emotional bag. So ultimately, we all just want to be heard. That's our ultimate goal. And so good, like good parenting, listening so they can talk, and talk so they will share. When you're doing good listening skills for children, you're not, well, this is one of the avenues that I took learning this process. So you're encouraging them to talk, you're encouraging them to share their emotions and to share their feelings, but you're not telling them what to think. You're using words like, oh yes, that's really interesting, that's cool. You know, how did it make you feel? Oh, I hear you. And if you did it again, would you do it differently? You're validating their words. You're making them feel heard. And once they feel heard and respected, then it's easier to think, well, maybe in the future I could do it differently. And that's a perfectly good question. Well, if it didn't work for you this time, is there some way you would change it in the future? Are there different words you would use? Are there different a different way that you could handle it? Or, you know, would you do it that way in the future? So like give them open-ended questions, or how would you change that in the future? So you want it to be open-ended questions. And then of course, personally speaking, okay, boundaries establish who we are, what we stand for, and what we identify with. So when you've got a boundary, maybe there's a topic on morals or something like that, and you have to know who you are, and you want to be able to stand up for yourself. You want to be able to not cross a boundary because somebody else is having a bad day. If you're not feeling like, oh, this person, you know, maybe they want a hug and you're like, I don't feel really good about that, then don't do it, because your boundaries have to be respected. And then we look at personally speaking. Those boundaries, what we stand for, are important, but it also protects us and our well-being. I don't want to ever cross a line with my belief systems. I will, you know, have a boundary there. I'm not going to sit and talk about revenge if that's not something I believe in. So I want to make sure I'm clear that where I'm at. So when I leave this conversation, I didn't say anything that I need to think about later. Boundaries exist in many areas, like the emotional pieces of it, maybe materials of it, time, energy, mental and physical. You know, I have different people that come to me and ask me for money all the time. And there comes a time when I have to say, no, that's not going to work. But then, you know, or like an exchange of energy is fine. There are people that come to me and just want to cry on my shoulder, and the same thing over and over again. And I don't do that. My boundary is 3 times. And then we need to talk about why you're not making changes. And then we need to talk about how maybe you have somebody out there be a better match, because I am not serving you or helping you by letting you stay in this rote routine of brokenness and low vibration. It's time to lift up. I would say that rarely ever happens. When you're working with someone that's just had some hardships, that lost someone, lost a job, I think most of them just need someone to help them temporarily vent and get through it. But if you're working with someone you think that has mental health issues, that's a different story. And that's where we're going to, send them to someone else. And when you're you're working within your boundaries, it also improves self-esteem, self-control, and the relationship with yourself and others. As you practice this, more that you practice this, the better you feel about what you're doing. I mean, you're creating this space for personal growth, being vulnerable, you're creating balance. So you're learning this new thing, and you're becoming better and better at it. And then the balance is there. In the beginning, when I was counseling, I would like the rules and regulations and all the different concepts, but now it's a more instinctual flow of what to say. So when somebody's talking to me and I'm all about listening to them, it's a different feeling. I don't have to think, what am I saying next? It's like a natural thing. And when you're in this boundary section, you also keep yourself from burnout. And of course, keeping you from burnout makes you more safe and more healthy. Let me see here. Schedule. So the 13 qualities of a good listener and how to be a better one. So Zoe Kaplan, back in August of 21, put out this list. And this list is a little tweaked, but it's really important to understand. Compassionate listening has been out there for a long time. It's just been under different names. So when we are fully present with someone, we're in that attentive space. We have no anticipation of what's going to be said the next moment. We have no, we just in the moment, we're just staying there. We're not looking at what at the end of the session or what happened before the session. And when we're in with someone, we're fully present. We don't look at our clock. We don't watch our phones. We just make sure we have good eye contact. We want this person to feel like you are the only person in the whole world right now, and I am right here with you. Go ahead and feel free to share these things. It's a very intense, beautiful, sacred moment. And when we're listening to these people, we're not listening to respond. We don't worry about what they're going to say next. We don't worry how we're going to respond to them, or we're just listening to comprehend. Okay, the person's in pain. They're telling me about their children. We're just trying to stay right there with them and comprehend what they're saying. We're not looking at how we're going to respond. And when we react in the moment, if something urgent happens, and yes, we respond to them in the moment if a response is needed, and we go with our gut instinct. We don't, I've done this as a counselor. I go to my mind, okay, this person is doing this and feeling this, then I should do this. No. We're not in the mental piece of it. We're in the instinctual piece of it. We're a compassionate listener. We're not there as a counselor. So we're going to stay in the instinct of how that feels. And then, of course, if you're not understanding, you can say, oh, I don't understand. Can you explain that a little deeper for me? It's okay, because we're in the moment. We're in this space. And when we're doing this, we don't have an agenda. We're not going to make sure, oh, this person comes in and I know they have this issue. And so we try to get them to talk about their issue and that kind of a conversation. We're not doing that, because we may think we know what's going on with them, and we may not even be close to what's going on with them. So it's important to be able to say, just let it flow. And when things are happening, and come up in the conversation to talk about it. We don't jump to give advice. We are not their counselors. We're here as a compassionate listener. And I know instinctually you want to say, I did this one time and this is what you should do. We're not advisors. So just talking about it and assisting through the problem and asking, oh, how do you want to handle that? What does that feel like? So many times a compassionate listener doesn't even have to say a word. I find that if we wait till that, when there's complete quiet, there might be an awkwardness, but if you still just smile at them and compassionately look at their eyes and just smile and give, or maybe get them a nod, they will start talking again. It's not up to us to fill the void of the movement or the words. It's not up for us to fill the void. We allow them to feel like they're emptying something. So if they're talking, let them go. Don't stop them. Don't interrupt them. Don't give them advice. But when they stop, then you can prompt that if it's a long void and say, no, how do you feel about that? So that's what we're here for. So we don't have an agenda. We're not going to steer the conversation. We're just going to let it flow. And we don't jump to giving to advice at all. We just try to stay completely away from that. And we don't interrupt. If somebody's talking to you, you don't go, yeah, but we don't do that. We allow them to talk. We allow them to speak freely. Because when you're stopping them in mid-sentence and mid-thought, they might not know where they were at. And I've been, stopped in a conversation where I'm trying to explain something important to me and somebody breaks the conversation. And then it's like, I don't even know what I was saying. Well, that's not going to help the person that's trying to release all of that. And it can cause confusion, and they might just shut down and not want to talk to you at all. So we ask follow-up questions, open-ended, like asking a relevant question helps the experiencer feel they're understood. And then, my children came and it was just such a hard time for me. Well, then, okay, well, how many children do you have? Do you get along with all of them? Or tell me the relationship. Like, so we prompt them to answer questions, but we make sure, because it makes them feel like we're actually listening. And when asked for more detail, they feel heard, and they feel like what they need is important, that you're really hearing them. We listen much more than we speak. Good listeners not worried about getting the words in. The focus on the speaker without the expectation. They respond organically. There are many times when I was doing counseling that I would only ask maybe 5 or 6 questions during the whole session, and the person would be talking the whole time. And I would be doing, oh, okay. Wow, that's interesting. So I would just be giving those validating words to them, and they would just keep talking. So that's important, to let them flow and get that out of their system. And we show that we're listening. We do the, the body language. We lean in. We have the eye contact. We have that nodding head. We show them that we have full participation in the moment that we're working with them in that moment. And we're patient. Sometimes people have a hard time expressing their words, and maybe their words stop, or maybe they stop in the middle of the flow because another thought comes across their brain, or there might even be a tear here or there. They just want to take a break, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we want them to feel full. We want them to feel like they're releasing everything. So we just be patient with them, even in the quietness. We listen and we learn. So each conversation has a nuance, and the listener reaches for something new each time the speaker is sharing. So we're looking for new information, or we ask open-ended questions. Oh, so then you were able to go to this place. Did you like that place much more? Was that job feeling like a better connection for you? Or tell me about how the connection felt better for you. So again, open-ended questions whenever possible, but leading them to maybe even more positive conversation with your open-ended conversations. Because a lot of people come to vent, and then as they vent, their vibration goes up, and then they actually see, feel, or hear things differently. So it could change their vibration. And when we're interested in what the speaker is interested in, it makes a big difference. So if they're talking about, their job as a dog groomer, then we want to try to be in that relationship with them. We want to find a commonality with them. We want to be able to be curious about that level. So, if they're talking about being a tax accountant, find a way to have a commonality in with them to make that conversation like they're being heard. And then also at the end, we want to summarize, what was it like? So glad you came in, Mary, to talk about today about, losing, your job. And I can, I hear how upsetting this is for you, but maybe, you've come to some realization, you want to help them feel validated in what they're talking about. I see you're in a lot of pain. I see you as such a beautiful, amazing woman. I'm sure things are going to be changing for you in the near future. Like, you want to help validate them and raise their vibration. And you just want to tell them that they're doing a good job, and it's good that you came and you got this off your shoulders. So we want to say, it's a great job. You're doing a great job, compassionate listener, if you're following these rules. Nothing's exact in life, but this is the combination that I found to be a really great combination. And being a good listener also means focusing on the person who's speaking, not to interrupt or respond, but rather to hear them out, which are the things that we just covered. Good listener plays a more passive speaking role in a conversation. but they're actively engaged with what the other person's saying, with their body language and their follow-up questions. So we let them do all the speaking, and we lean forward, we give them the body language, and we do follow-up questions. We try not to be a part of their conversation, but to validate their conversation. And we respect the persons there who is speaking. And even if we disagree with them and we act in the moment without expectation, we want to make sure it's not about us, it's about them. And in doing our best, we just have to be in that calm, peaceful place and let them just speak. And at the end of the interaction with a good listener, the speaker will feel loved, respected, and understood. And that's how we're assisting in that compassionate listening piece of it. Okay, so the next way I look at it is, it's kind of like, it's simplified. Ask one question at a time, ask open-ended questions, seek to understand, listening more than speaking. So if you're listening more than you're speaking to understand, you're not putting your stuff in this. This is not about you. This is about serving the world in a higher capacity by being a compassionate listener. But these little girls are adorable. I loved playing this game when I was little. So what one thing we're going to talk about that's on the negative side of this, but we need to understand, energy vampires. What is that like? So there's a little humor here. So don't take 100% serious, but there's a little humor here. Beware of reckless energy vampires among us. Not all of them are visible with horns, fangs, and wearing black capes under the cover of darkness, but they are still equal and as deadly in the methods. So what that means is the energy vampires, sometimes they're so sleek, you don't even know what's happening. So being aware of this ahead of time to watch for the signs is a good idea. There's a website I send people to, holisticpatriot.com, and they've got a lot of information about narcissism, which very much matches in this list that we're going to talk about. But we don't want to make sure you're not giving your energy to an energy sucker. Okay, like they will drain you dry. So how do I identify this energy vampire? The things you might experience if you're around someone that's draining you is you're feeling overwhelmed, you're feeling stressed. Physically, you get headaches, maybe aches in your body, maybe a backache, a shoulder pain. You're mentally or physically just exhausted after you've been talking to them. You're irritable or you're anxious, and there's absolutely no reason. Mentally, there's no reason for it. It's because some people are just really good at draining the energy right off you. So we want to respect that's the description of that. And then we also want to look at, you may notice that the energy vampire displays some of the characteristics. So there's kind of a persona, and to me, it's broken down into like 3 different personas. But let me just go over this, that when you're working with an energy vampire, sometimes it's, sorry about that. Sometimes it's the big ego. They love to debate. They love to argue, they love to pick fights. They love drama. They love just energetic chaos. They love that. So that's a really clear sign that it might be someone that you want to be extra careful for and put a boundary up. Maybe they're aggressive or passive aggressive. And again, I don't think you're going to find as many people in some of these categories with a compassionate listening the way we're rolling it out, but there could be, maybe even in your regular life, you might see these things. A lot of them are paranoid. They find something to always be worried about. That's probably how some people back 20 years ago looked at the conspiracy theorists. Oh, they're just looking for a way to be paranoid. So taking that with a little grain of salt. But there might be they might have resentments, they might have anger issues. And I'm going to put that all in the category of narcissism. There's a lot of narcissism out there. And I know the percentages of the descriptor have gone up. And, not exact description, but, it used to be like 3% of the population. Now it's closer to 11% of the population. It's depending on where you do your research and who you listen to. But why would that be? And I think a lot of it has to do with a narcissist has zero empathy. They might have shame in something they've done, but they have no empathy. So when you have no empathy, it's easy to be grandioso. It's easy to be aggressive. It's easy to think you're always right. And so they have these tendencies to be that way. But the other thing about the narcissist, they can also go another way. They can go down into a whining and complaining and a poor me, away. So they're good at flipping their energy to try to get energy out of you, either through the overly dramatic or the under, like, poor me, I need your love, I need your help kind of thing. So they flip back and forth. But when you're seeing people that are melodramatic, they got to have a drama going on in their life all the time. These are people you need to kind of step back and say, I'm going to hear your words. I'm going to hear the facts of your words, but I'm not going to attach the feeling. So if you want to tell me about this thing that happened to you, I'm going to listen to your words and I'm going to support you in that, but I'm not going to get angry for you. I'm not going to get depressed for you. I'm not going to like, yeah, you're right. No drama. We don't do drama here. So that melodramatic behavior is to encourage you to involve yourself in it. Those are energy suckers. Okay. Then we have the whining and the complaining. Just like, no matter what you say, no matter what suggestions they are, they've still got an in them, because they're dropping your energy to go down and meet their energy to help pull them up. So if you're up here and they keep pulling you down and pulling you down, it's going to affect your energy. Also, you have that, this one's the bitching and gossiping, the people that want to complain about everything and then use names. They want to tell you what Bob did or whatever. We try to detach from this. We try to get to the fact versus the feeling, and be in that piece of it. The next one I find to be draining. How do I say this? They catch you off guard more than the grandiosos. The ones that catch me off guard the most are the insecurities, the ones that need the constant reassurance or acceptance. They're always like, I tried that, but, she wouldn't listen to me, or, really, how do I do that? I've never had a checkbook before. I don't know how that works. Or I just was saying something to somebody about, a problem I'm having, and they asked me a question, and it's like, do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? It's like you're reaching for any kind of attention from me rather than even using common sense. They have this, oh, I don't know, poor me, I don't get that, like innocence about them. So they're really just another form of draining your energy. Oh, and then also there's the manipulative ones, the guilt tripping ones. Like, you don't understand, I need this because I got to feed my children, and the people at my office are so mean to me, and I just need your help. If you don't do this for me, who's going to help me? That's emotional blackmail. And that's also unacceptable. And boundaries need to be there for that. And then, of course, there's the whole form of jealousy. We have a saying on my island: people here will spend more time tearing you down than they do building themselves up. These are dangerous people, and we don't want to be near them. So in all of these, and when I say dangerous, I mean energetically dangerous. So these are all forms of energy vampire. They want to suck your energy dry. So we want to just make sure we're really well aware of that. And if you're feeling, when you're in a session, you're feeling drained, you start getting a headache, you just don't feel right, I want you to become aware of this, because this is where we need you to make sure you put your boundaries up, start pulling in that light, pushing it through your body, pulling in that light, pushing it through your body, and put yourself back in that state of pure white light. Put your boundaries up and protect yourself from energy vampires, or those people that are lowering your vibration. And you after you're listening to this and you do it a couple times, you're going to begin to recognize, oh, this person's draining my energy. Okay, I need to pull that white light of energy in. I need to fill myself back up, release anything not serving me, fill it back up. Now I have my boundary. Okay, now we can talk again, or we need to end this session, or we need to not book again, because you have to take care of you. All right. Those are the energy boundaries. So just a reminder that your environment, of course, needs to be safe. Use your gut instinct and where you're meeting someone. If the person's not a good match, just refer to someone else. It'll be a better match for them, because this is about you giving of yourself to help the world be a better place. And in no way, shape, or form, as a compassionate listener, are you ever to put yourself in any form of uncomfortableness or danger. So that is where we don't go there. We refer someone to a professional counselor, or we refer to, maybe to another compassionate listener that might be a better match for them. And, as you practice this, you get better at it and better at it. So it's a beautiful way to live, I'm telling you. So right now, understand this is energy, vibrations, frequencies, and emotions. This is what we're talking about. And we allow the energy of love to flow through us at every minute, breathing that beautiful energy in and breathing that beautiful out, breathing it in, releasing anything that no longer serves us. And if you're constantly in this flow of energy, practicing your breath techniques, making sure you're hydrated, because that will also throw the brain off a little bit. So make hydration, make sure you have the energy moving through you. And I want you to remember, a compassionate listener also wants to, it's imperative, it's not even wants to, it's imperative that you take care of you first. You are the most important person in this sector, because you need to go out and be able to help more people. You can't do that if you allow yourself to be drained. So I just want to remember, you do have tools to use. There are a lot of tools out here. Understanding the differences between the beliefs, languages, and dimensions. You're going to talk very different to someone who's a woke person than you would someone who's awakening and having questions. We need to recognize that and be okay with it. There's no judgment. Wherever a person is where they are. We want to make sure that we're using the emotional scale. If someone's on a lower vibrational scale, we want to think about the words and where they are, and we want to help them rise in that scale by asking them open-ended questions like, well, next time you do that, is there something that might make you feel, instead of sad, make you feel maybe, optimistic? So you can use your words from the emotional scale that we talk about. A key piece, I can never stress this enough, is understanding the differences between sympathy, empathy, and compassion. Because when you're counseling, or when you're not counseling, when you're coaching and you're working with these people, you're a compassionate listener, understanding we don't want pity. That's why when someone wants a pity party or woe is me over and over again, that's low vibration. We don't dance there at all. And empathy has to be very clearly understood. We use empathy to understand where somebody's coming from, but we do not take on the emotion of it. We use it to understand, oh, this must be harsh on them. This must be what that's feels like. Oh, I've experienced this before. Empathy is beautiful, and that's what makes it so special. But we don't feel the emotion of the other person. That is not our job. We push the emotion aside. We push their emotion aside. We do not own that. What we do is we step up with compassion. We bring the white light in. We cover energy over them. We live in a kindness of high value, high moral, high ethics. Stay in our boundary. We breathe that light in, and we make sure that we're coming from compassion during these conversations. Empathy is great for identification, but we do not take on the emotion. It's important to remember that defining line. We also have the 4 agreements. Are you in this place where you're being impeccable with your word? Are you not taking things personal? Are you making assumptions? Are you doing your best? The 4 agreements is an amazing, life-changing thing to understand. The breath techniques, the mini meditations, these are tools that you have to keep yourself high in frequency and beautiful, solid emotions for yourself. Staying calm in a crisis. Do you remember the tools that you use to make sure that, yeah, they're in drama, but I'm not going to own their drama. It's important to remember these tools, and you've got everything you need. Energy health, understanding the 7 habits of healthy energy, vibrational energy, and of course, self-love and awareness. Once we get these things and we're in them constantly and we're living them, and it gets easier and easier just to help anybody. So as a compassionate listener, I thank you for this time. I certainly didn't want this class to be that long, but I think you understand the value of this. It's all about you first. You've got to be in a safe place. You've got to be compassionate to yourself. You've got to be loving and loyal to yourself. You've got to have your boundaries for yourself. But once you get this stuff done, you are amazing, and you're going to make a huge difference in the world. So this is Healthy Boundaries, and thank you for joining this program. As you know, we deal a lot with energy medicine, energy psychology, metaphysics, and the science of spirituality. This is part of the Compassionate Listener program, but it's fine on its own also just to understand boundaries. And with Soul Solutions, it's about finding your passion, expanding your consciousness, and advancing your enlightenment. And I say every time, and I don't leave it, I don't mean it in a low way, I mean it in a big way. It's your life, it's your energy, and you are not a victim. And once you learn that this is a key piece of who you are, your bigness of life, you have this powerful energy about you. You're not a victim. You get to take control. In fact, when you start playing with this stuff, you're going to realize what an amazing creator you are. And you're going to be so filled with joy that you just want to tell the world and share with the world everything you've learned. So I thank you very much for being part of this program. I'm Dr. Barb Tremlett, living in the beautiful Caribbean, St. Martin. And I look forward to continuing these programs with you. I have the YouTube channel, Soul Solutions SXM, my website, Soul Solutions SXM. I'm not hard to find. So thank you very much. Namaste. And remember that healthy boundaries keeps everybody in a safe place. And you deserve that more than anything as you go through making this world a better place. So namaste. Talk to you soon.